Well, hello there, everybody. Little Seals and Crofts on this fine Monday after our epic snowstorm, and it was a lot of fun. Always like blizzards. I mean, now it may sound a little weird, but if you plan ahead, they're like really cool. I mean, get to sit in and you know bake pies, cookies, and watch the snow come down inches per hour. Just yeah. Hey, David Castle, saw you the other night with Mr. Robert V. So good to see you, my friend. Susie Q and John Price and Lost in Space. And who's else here? Yeah, Elderberry. How y'all doing? Delta Hook, good to see you. Wendy, hello. So let me pull up for a second here. It was a epic snowstorm. It really was. I've lived here for a very long time and never experienced this kind of snow. I'll show y'all just a couple of pictures. This is my backyard, and that snowdrift in the center is approximately 49 inches thereabouts. So uh, it was deep and snowdrifts everywhere. It was beautiful. Uh, Blowing it, yeah, you know, good workout. You got to love it. But, when you see this kind of, epic snow, there you go. There's the evidence of my labor. And the other side is just as high. And above you, what you don't see in that picture was this concave of epic snow. I know others in the Colorado area experienced the same thing. It was a fun storm. It really was. It had a little dust from New Mexico. And this is how sustained the winds were. I mean, when you get icicles that are about a foot long blowing to the side, yeah, it blew, I guess, for about a good 12 hours. It was a blowing and a going. So we had fun with it. And hey, it was all part of the experience. Well, you folks down in Pueblo, get ready. You're going to get some tomorrow. I think you're going to get this next storm. I think it's going south. So, hey, Scotty boy, what's up? Keep the faith. How you doing? Haven't seen you before. I miss making igloos with the kids. There you go. Now that is a good exercise. Hello, Tim Barnes. How you doing? Ms. Dallas, do it. Good to see you. Rocks artist. How you doing? First time. Well, welcome. I think you're going to like it here. This is a good group of people. Hey, Lucky Stone, how you doing, my friend? Lucky Stone is our resident walking philosopher. I like Lucky. Need to subscribe to him. Hello, Pamela, Eyes of the Maelstrom, AK Morningstar. What's up? So, 3-year-old waves. What's up? Good to see you. Gilbert Smith, Emperor Rex. How you doing? Um, 14 inches there in Cal. Oh, excellent. Yeah. Hello, Big Al. How you doing, my friend? Yeah, glad to see you clean the driveway. Hello, Nina. How you doing? Nina has over her channel has Anda Karana shirts. You need to buy one and get one myself. Hello, Air Dragon. What's up? Ripley 56. Man, a lot of new people here. So um going to be having April and AJ on from the Spiritual Raw channel. We're going to get some dates. Sometimes planning is like, wow. So, I really got something here that we're going to enjoy. I have this on ebook, PDF, and you can get it. I was so taken back by it, I just printed the whole damn thing off and read it in record time. I have read a lot of stories. The Bible is a story. The Quran is a story. The Hindu Vedic is a story. The Bhagavad Gita is a story. The Sumerian tablets are a story. The thing about it is, folks, um, and you can go back into the archives. I have contended when I made the decision to do this and to do it with excellence, one of the first things I had to come to grips with is that our species has amnesia. We don't remember. Um, and it's been genetically programmed into us. And when I awoke from the God spell, and not like it's today, the day the awoke culture is ass backwards. They got their head up their ass. They'll figure it out eventually, but sometimes you have to go through the sewer in order to get to the toilet. But anyway, I digress. Everything is just an opinion, right? Everyone's got one, Steiger. But when we look at humans, Homo sapiens, Homo sapiens sapiens, we are in the midst of a evolution leap. I don't think many of us are going to like it because there is something else driving it. Many of us, I know this, many of you have been with me for, well, this almost makes the 7th year, I think, on YouTube. You know that I was at one time very much taken with the Nibiru story. Zachariah Stitchins, I have all of his books, read them. And then because of Stitchin, it led me to Dr. Noah Kramer. Dr. Noah Kramer is the world's first and most renowned Sumerologist. He made some breakthroughs on the cuneiform that enhanced our understanding of the Sumerian tablets, of which there are over 100,000. The Sumerians were prolific writers. The Sumerians, many theorized they were a plug-and-play society. I believe they were. And it's just my opinion, but I have suspected for years now, there is no God. Now, I know people don't go freaking out on me on this. There's no God in the true sense of the word. There are many beliefs in a God. But the problem is it's like Einstein never figured out the unified theory. You know, he gave us, relativity. He gave us a lot, but he never unified his theories. And what we have is that we have all of these religions. So all of these religions are either all wrong or they're all right. If they're all right, then that begs to say, well, then what's really going on here? Why is it that the human beast, and that's what we are, why is it that we have this inward programming that pushes us towards subservience? And all religions are subservient. You can't be a part of religion unless you accept their dogma, and that means to be obedient. You are subservient to the dogma. So, said all that because I have come to the conclusion in many, many studies that something else is ruling us. Something that doesn't want to be seen, something that is seen, but we don't recognize it, something that has wiped our memories. We're going to get into a book. It's called The Terra Papers. I love this guy's writing, whether it's true, whether it's fantasy, or some of the mixed of both. This story is like a tapestry. It weaves so many different congruent theories of us. And the way it's done makes a hell of a lot of sense. So I have suspected for some time that there's something greater than God in man's construct. It has genetically altered us, whatever this is. Um, it shortened our lifespan. It shortened our ability to increase in IQ. And it pretty much dominates us in everything, in our customs, our thoughts. Um, this story gives us a clue as to what happened. And I can tell you, I'm going to give you a little piece of the end. What's happened is this: we've been around for a long time. The human beast. That's where we came from. We are the result of a race of beings who, in their sciences, were disciplined geneticists. They seeded planets. They terraformed planets. When their race conquered a star system, they immediately began to look for the precious metals, the ores, to begin mining operations. And within every mining operation, there was the need for workers. And we are not where we think we came from. We see bits and pieces because they can't. The problem is they have erased our memories. Many of us who have probably begun to figure this out, the bright light, when you die, when you pass over, the bright light is a machine. And that machine is designed to pull you in. And once they've recovered you, then you're put into the machine, and the machine wipes your memories. They reprogram you. And the reason why they do that is because they harvest something from us. We don't have a soul. We were never programmed to have a soul. The spirit aspect was an accident. Wasn't something that was really planned, but we find out where we got that from. Yeah. There is we think that we live in an afterlife that is perfect. It is not. There was never any thought for an afterlife. The human beast were just for labor. They didn't give a damn after you died or when our distant relatives died. There was no afterlife. There was none of that. It's interesting how that has developed, because that, in fact, is a trap. Now, people are going to say, what? There is an afterlife. I'm not saying that there's not, but it's not quite what we've been told. So, yes, Gilbert, we are a soul tribe because we can manifest. Like I said, the geneticists that put us together, designed us, they weren't perfect. And there was a war going on. It's why we're a warrior species. You see, humanity is a warrior species. And we imitate the gods. We imitate our creators. They are a warrior race. There is no compassion in the ruling class of queens. So what I've done here, we're going to jump ahead to the end of the book so that when we start at the beginning, you get an idea of a little bit of how the story unfolds. So this is the hidden history of planet Earth. Around us, our galaxy, that's what the Milky Way is. Just because we call it the Milky Way doesn't mean the other intelligent beings in the Milky Way call it the Milky Way. Is the home of billions of beings, star races as varied as the stars themselves, but each race born of the same evolutionary formula. From the first spark of life to the birth of a single cell, from the splitting of the cell to the formation of a simple cell amoebas. Amoebas, like, yeah, exactly. And then to the highly complex water creatures, from the first large fish, beings, to the emergence of land creatures. Each race of the star peoples has essentially followed the same path, from simple cellular structure to complex humanoid. Such is the norm in our galaxy. Humanoid is the rule, not the exception. Folks, this, like I said, I read this in record time. For me, it was just, man, I couldn't put it down. We know this. They have blocked our perception of what life really is. We really think that we're the top of the pyramid. We're not. We're the bottom. Intellectually, as a species, everywhere around, we are at the bottom, but we're climbing up. It's true. Star races are descended of reptiles, insects, birds, and other forms of life mankind could not begin to imagine. Two races of star beings monopolize the history of our galaxy and our Earth. And by the way, this is the book Terra Papers by Robert Morningstar. And if you want it, I got the PDF and you can just email. We, Earth, we are in the 9th sector. Of the oldest star races is the reptilian Orion, descended from dinosaurian ancestors. The Arion queens have created the single most powerful galactic empire in this sector of Uranus. That's us, the Milky Way. Possessed of warriors of unmatched ferocity and bravery, referred to, and we'll get, when we get to the beginning, we'll get to the MK and the MG. The Orion Empire, Orion, by the way, was unequaled in power and size. Millions of years of countless battles had honed the war science of the Orion Empire to near perfection. New methodologies had been developed. Conquered populations were an asset rather than a liability. Resistance was eliminated by simply reprogramming the minds of the difficult ones. An able-bodied enemy of the state became an obedient servant of the throne with but a simple operation. The hold of the Orion on the 9th sector was virtually total and most definitely unyielding until the time of an unexpected involvement of yet another star system. This second star race was one descendant of dog creatures similar to wolves. They were known as Canis, the wolf beings of the star system Sirius, the dog star. Their empire, it was not as old nor as evolved as the Aryan kingdom, but the fervor, the fierceness of its warriors, known as the DK and the TK, was vicious and barbaric, sufficiently so as to concern even the most disciplined of the Aryan MK warriors. Cutting through an enemy's army and then stopping, this is what the Canis do, they then stop and devour the flesh of the fallen. That's hardcore, buddy. You have these people invade planet Earth, we don't stand a chance. The DK soldiers provided their kings with conquest upon conquest. As their empire grew, the Canis kings began to concern the Aryan queens. A star lane known as the Pesh Maten, the 9th passageway, was the vital super starway linking the inner central stars to the outermost edges of the galaxy. By controlling this star lane, the Aryan queens maintained power over their empire, collected revenues, and influenced the political affairs of the central stars. The expansion of the Syrian kings began to encroach on the Peshmatan, and possibly the queens were not willing to permit. Yes, the universe, our galaxy at least, is ruled by the feminine. Kind of leads into what we're in today, huh? The queens approached the Syrian kings with an offer as an alliance. If the Canis kings would agree to pledge their loyalty to the Aryan queens, the queens would allow them to maintain control of the outer portion of the starway. making profit and yielding power over passageway traffic. Should a rejection of the alliance offer be the result, the queens of Orion would have no choice but to obliterate the Cirrus war forces and the Cirrus star system itself. Folks, I'll give you a little clue. This Earth that we're on, they wiped it out. They freaking wiped it out. And billions of us. We'll get into that story probably next week. But yeah, and there's signs all over what they did to this solar system. Anyway, the Syrian kings recognized the power granted them in an alliance with the Aryan queens and quickly accepted. Thus, the alliance of reptilian queens, and that's who the queens are, they're reptilian. They are in us. We'll get that later. And the Wolfish Kings was born. MK warriors and DK warriors would fight side by side. The star system of Orion, and Sirius were allied. And for a time, peace reigned in the 9th sector. The reason why we're a warrior race, the reason why there has been no peace on Earth ever, we got to wake up to the reality of this truth. There never will be peace on Earth. No matter how many of us, of which you're going to find out there are the Adamas and the Adapa. Many of us are probably of the Adapa, and you'll see there's something genetic there. The new star system was born very nearly on the starway. Its position very clearly a place from which the Syrian king could further strengthen his hold on the passageway and make his position more secure in the affairs of the galaxy. New worlds are also sources of untapped precious metals and ores, as well as vital elemental compounds. The Syrian king quickly claimed the new star system and began to exploit its resources. The star system Bad, that's the name of it, became a crucial outpost to both the Syrians and the Orions. Power and wealth for both empires continued to grow. But a coup in the Syrian royal court forced the king, who had been responsible for the development of the new star and its worlds, to flee for his life. Residents of the new solar system eagerly greeted their benefactor, granting him haven, excuse me. I did that on purpose. And in his colony outpost, the king continued to develop the worlds and moons of the system Bad. Striking up an agreement with the Orion queens, the king agreed to pay tribute to both the Orion and Canis thrones in exchange for his safety. Though the new Syrian king, On, wanted the death of the deposed king, he was forced to obey, to accept the agreement forced upon him by the queens. And again, in a short time, peace reigned. The way of conquerors demands constant vigilance. Power is not bequeathed, it is taken or lost. Such is the way of both Orion and the Syrian empires. The king or queen who is caught sleeping will most likely remain asleep forever. The death of a deposed king in the outpost worlds gave the Syrian king reason to rejoice. His long-time hated rival was gone, but the grandson of the now silent deposed king, an angry young prince, ascended to power, and with him came the great rebellion. Lord Zu, known as Zuzu or Zeus, threw out the Syrian king and the DK warriors. The loyalty of the bad peoples and an uncanny knack for battle permitted the Lord King Zeus to win against the faraway stars of Sirius. The golden age of an ancient god, Zeus, on Mount Al-Buzuz, Olympus, was at hand. But time would work against the young king. The forces of both the Orion and Syrian empires would join against him. They kicked our ass. They destroyed this planet. It's weird, but it's true. The forces of both the Orion and Syrian empires would join against him, and the solar system bad would suffer the full force of the warships and their weaponry. Every trace of the rebellious and upstart Lord King Zu would be eliminated. Entire worlds and their peoples were destroyed. Moons and their small colonies would be demolished. The wrath of the King An was merciless and total. There would be no remains and no prisoners. The golden era of Zeus was over. Millions of years later, King An would dispatch his son, a Genesis scientist, to rebuild the destroyed worlds. Much needed resources and the strategic value of the outpost star system was far too important to allow it to remain dormant. Through the efforts of the young prince, one planet was brought back to life. The young Genesis creator brought the atmosphere back to life, and the seas, once more filled with life and movement. Plants, trees, and flowers appeared on the surfaces lands. Creatures were hybridized. One life was once again walked on the world given up for dead. Eridu arose from the ashes. That's us, Earth. Eridu. Workers and technicians came with their families. Cities flourished, and the recovery operations for precious metals, ores, and elements began to thrive. Settlers came from many parts of the ninth sector to become residents of the new world. The young prince continued to fabricate new creatures to inhabit the planet. One, an ape beast hybrid. Its one and only purpose was to serve the lords and masters, to slave in the fields and mines for a heavenly empire needing precious metals and elements. Such was the fate of the beast. Syrian kings, princes, and princesses came to govern over the new worlds. Jealously, greed, and the way of conquerors came to be part of life on Eridu. The young prince creator, the Genesis scientist who had rebuilt the world, was removed as Lord of Dominion. Where have we heard dominion in our very recent past? I digress. The empire, the sustaining of the very system itself, was paramount. The creation of life, experiments exploring the potentials of a new creature would have to be set aside. And so the young prince was replaced by his own brother as the Lord of Dominion. And so too, the saga of the beast, the enlightenment, and the enslavement of man continues. The Isu. Prince E found the beast in the garden at the center of the bioagricultural complex. The creature would be the key that would undo Enlil's dominion on planet Earth. The beast could mate only under the strictest of conditions and only with a specifically selected partners, us. The genetic breeding programs had to be carefully controlled. The empire depended on workforces composed of subservient and obedient laborers. You don't give laborers or slaves free will. Never do. The angry prince decided to shake the very foundation of the new colony outpost, us. He would reveal to the beast, humans, the secret knowledge of the gods. Mating could be engaged in at any time and for the sheer pleasure of it. While the slaves must place labor before all else, the lords placed pleasure above all. Servants toiled endlessly so that masters could revel in the intoxicating pleasures of erotica. The beasts were given the knowledge of knowing each other at will. The prince taught the creature how to have a clandestine rendezvous, how to hide from the overseers, and where to search for hidden places to enjoy their newly acquired knowledge. And the beast enjoyed himself and enjoyed herself. But the beast would be discovered. His transgression, a crime against the state, could not be hidden. His nakedness easily revealed his state of arousal. The guardians had no difficulty in catching the transgressors. Even the females displayed outward signs, though on a much more subtle scale. The offending beast were ejected from the gardens. Loyal beast remained. They were known as the Adapus, wise ones. These beast workers were allowed to stay in the garden, but the commands under which they would live increased in number and severity. Punishment became more brutal. Prince became the embodiment of evil itself. Any and all works of the prince were labeled anti-state, thus the works of the worst criminal. Dae, the creator I guess, Baal, Father Lord, once the Lord Father, creator, Ea had become the Da-E-Ha-El, Diablo, devil, the evil one. Let's stop and talk about that. So the creator had to be made evil because it chases the herd off the cliff into these catchers of what religion, politics, social groups all lead to. We continue. For several thousand years, the turmoil continued. Lord Prince Ea would pay a price for his crime, but he was first son of the king himself. The offending beast had been sent into exile. Certain death awaited them. That's the Adam and Eve story. Perhaps Ea would not be allowed the power he once had, his honors stripped. Once the proud prince, he was allowed to remain in the colonies, but would never again be a force of influence. Though powerless, the prince continued his work with the rejected beast. In these wretched creatures, he could see a possibility, life unfettered by a system, life pursuing the path of its choice, life living for the sake of life. Instructed to create special schools to teach the loyal minions of Prince Inyel in the secrets of the sciences, the beaten Prince Ea began to build the Brotherhood, those who would become the administrators and priests of Lord Inyel. The symbol of the sciences, the knowledge itself, was an easily recognized serpent, a tribute to the reptilian Aryan queens and the empire itself. Thus, the initiates of these schools became known as the Brotherhood of the Snake. I did a whole series on that 2 years ago. But the schools gave Prince Ea an idea. The beast would be given the opportunity to learn the secrets as well. Secretly, the prince held meetings with the beast in the hillside caves. The caves became known as the Tek-La-Us, and many years of seemingly endless travail, the word, it means Tek-La-Us, the word place of the word or techniques. Over the many years of seemingly endless travail, the Tek-La-Us, the Cha-Ra'ash, the Simrosh, the church, gave hope to the beast. Stories of the lost paradise were often spoken of, but the memories were so distant that they had become vague at best. Schooling of the beast began with simple lessons in survival, cooking with fire and hunting, creating shelter, making simple traps, and avoiding the dangers of the wilds. The beast learned and began to pass his skills on to his young. To the pleasant surprise of the prince, some beasts were able to learn quickly and eagerly sought more knowledge. In excited anticipation, the prince began to instruct the beast in the hidden arts he had begun to teach in Inyel's mastery schools, and the creature learned. The cave meetings remained secret. The beast who showed promise, our teachers, became known as Isu, the wise ones, or the children of Ea, children of the serpent. The symbol of Prince Ea, the Genesis scientist, was a pair of serpents, not the single serpent of the brotherhood. Prince Ea himself was called the Lord Serpent, or the serpent. He was thus to become the serpent seducer in Eden. I tell you, whether this is a fantasy of this guy or what, I love the way that he blends so many different beliefs, stories, the fables, yeah, great writing. The Isu began their missions to teach other creatures what they had learned from the serpent prince. As they made their way into the wilderness, Prince Ea stood proudly. They had learned and had become teachers in their own right. The Isu could help lead the way to life of free will. But Prince Inyel learned of the hidden schools and immediately implemented his own plans, dispatching loyal beast hybrids created by his own Genesis scientists. Prince Inyel infiltrated the cave schools, masquerading as Isus. Iloyalists created their own Cherosh, confusing the beast and creating dissension. The prince of the word was pleased with his minions. They had confused the creatures. With the false Isu words, the beast could no longer understand nor communicate with each other. It was no more than babble. The false Isu smiled. The true Isu wept. The takeover had been successful. Lord Prince Marduk, first son of the reviled creator god Eo, had become the one and only, the sun god Ra. The Shaitai Lizards had reprogrammed all remaining subjects on planet Earth. You see, we skip some, and there's a reason, because this is where Ra comes in. The rebel Sata, and when we get back to the beginning of it, you're going to find who the Sata queens are. This, maybe many of you are already picking up on the thought. So the Sata is where we get the Satan. So the Sata queens, the Arion underground worlds, had given support to Marduk with the understanding that the Shaitai Lizards would become the administrators of the new empire. They had done their job well. Marduk would keep them around for a while. With their memories gone, you see, when this war took place, the survivors, humans, we were harvested, and they put us into the tunnel, the bright light. These are master mind manipulators. And you're going to see how much we are manipulated. Other Syrian family members also gave faith and alliance to Ra. They too had lost their memories. And so it was that the empire entered a glorious phase. Everyone aspired to the same goal, to praise and serve the sun god. Isn't it odd? You see, we get the idea that in battle, you kill everything, you kill your opponent. That's a foolish, ignorant way. And that's why man is still a beast. That's why they see us as still a beast. We look at what the world is today. Look at our own country. We are beast. We're not intelligent people. But what the beast us we don't understand is that it's you don't kill your enemy. Those are valuable assets. You wipe their memories, and then they become docile. They become very obedient and subservient to the system. And you see, folks, that's what this book is about. The whole world, we are subservient to the system. Prince Ea, the creator of us, gave part of his DNA into us. And those who were activated, they see the system. Many of you are in here. All right, let's continue. And so it was the empire to praise and serve the sun god. The mystery schools became the source of priests who had but one thought: to praise the Lord Ra, from whom all things, all beings, all wisdom had come. The secrets of the galaxy, the universe, came through the mouth of Ra. And so too, the Cherosh became targets of the Lord Ra and the Shaitai. Where once the teachings were those of Lord Prince Ea, now they were of Ra Lagos. Ra laws, words of, place of the words of Ra. Ra Lagos equals religion. All religions today are still Ra based. That's their foundation. You can put any name you want to put up there, and you can make up any cockamamie story behind it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's like facing the Borg. Resistance is futile, right? Here, too, the purpose of the priesthood and brotherhood was to perpetuate the confusion and keep the truth away from both beast and the Syrian lords alike. You see, we're not alone in this hell, this trap. There are many others that are here as well. They can't leave. They want to leave. This is where the story of the Messiah, the Savior, comes. It's not the physical rapture, it's the spirits. I get ahead of myself. Where once all beast and Syrian subjects were forced to praise the Syrian lords and ultimately give greater honor to the Aryan queens, Lord Ra, with the approval of the Satah, rebel queens, began to systematically remove all traces of mother goddess presence. Henceforth, the omnipotent one was a male, the sun god Ra himself. Males would dominate every aspect of life. It was time for females to relinquish their exalted places of power. The Shaitai lizards, with their cousins, the Henta lizards, and Henta, just to let you know, translates hybrid lizard being, were originally recognized for their uncanny abilities with stone cutting equipment. Using their sound cutters and the heat beams with incredibly accuracy, the lizards with robot-like precision could produce stone structures that needed no mortar or binding agent to keep them together. These creatures, the Shaitai and the Henta, lizard hybrids, were crucial to the main administration of Lord Sun Ga Ra's empire, were the original stone masons. You know, the first pharaoh was a lizard being. Probably a Shaitai, could have been a Henta, I don't know. They're here. Listen, the Native Americans of the Southwest have been telling the white man, but the white man's got his head up his ass. That's the problem. That the true rulers of this continent is the lizard people. There are stories of the facility outside New Mexico, Los Alamos, where we've already had battles with them. There is a tenuous peace, but these beings, these lizard beings, are not peaceful beings. They look at us because if you have compassion, sympathy, empathy, if you have these traits, you are worthless. You're flawed. You're defected. You are, and they're not going to allow that infection in amongst them. It's not how the universe works. Sucks, doesn't it? Note the Egyptian glyph of Mason is Hun Hun Yu. Han is the root word meaning lizard. Han Yu is literally one who is of the lizards. You see, it's amazing. You go out and tell people this, and they'll just laugh at you or think there's some kind of sci-fi movie because we're so ignorant. The human beast have not advanced. There is a remnant of us, and this is what they're now seeing. But anyway, the sun god had become the one and only god king, but the king was concerned with the lizards. They had become too powerful. No aspect of the empire was untouched by their hand. No position of administration was devoid of a Shaitai Hinta presence. With care and secrecy, the sun god Ra attempted to shift the wealth and power away from the lizard controllers, but to no avail. It was too late. The Shaitai, Hinta, and Sata rebels seized the empire. With no battles, with no weapons fires, they simply shut everything off. The sun god could not communicate with anyone. The sun god could not issue orders. The sun god could not rule. The sun god was undone. With little recourse, the once and only king fled in his starship back to the heavens. The Shaitai Lizards changed nothing. The empire continued functioning as it had before, though the subjects of Erudidu had been programmed to forget their history. The acceptance of the one omnipotent God would not be altered. It served quite well the need of the lizards. They assured the role of the Lord of the word Enyel. They took over the role of the Lord of creation, Prince Ea, and they set up all institutions which would govern man, his life, and his destiny. The sun god was gone. The lizard kings were in charge. Mystery schools were closed by Thutmose, remaining open only to a select few. Only the stonemasons' offsprings could participate. In every corner of the realm, the Masons would control the secrets of hidden knowledge of the universe. Syrian descendants of the original Nibiru lords became target for the new empire. Their wealth and power, inherent birthrights, began to be stripped away. They were viewed as potential threats to the state. The Inibaru, the Hebrew, potentially threats to the state. The Hebrews are treated as undesirables and are enslaved by the empire's new order. The stage for Exodus is set. Moses, a Hebrew child, is set adrift in a river. An attendant to the princess, daughter of the Pharaoh, finds a child floating. We know the story. She rescues him and takes him into her chamber. Moses has the opportunity to study in the mystery schools. He learns the ways of the Masons, but is taught to believe in one God. In time, Moses discovers his true identity. Feeling that he is betrayed, he strikes out at the guard, who then threatens the Hebrew slave. And of course, we know that he killed the guy and then, sent out into the desert. He encounters a small ship. Its bright lights are blinding. The crew is composed of Syrians who seek revenge on the lizards. The commander speaks to an awestruck Moses. He promises Moses the Lord of the Word is willing to support him if he moves against Pharaoh. The commander and crew seek to free the trapped Hebrew descendants from their oppressors. Now it's interesting because there's a whole thing out there, I think it's in Biblescapes, on the Kivav. I did a whole thing on the Kivav. Moses went into a spaceship. And the reason why his skin irradiated light was because he was contaminated. He was radiated. Humans don't do well with radiation. Moses returns to the palace, scared but convinced that a powerful God is behind him. The crew of the Syrian ship and a small backup squadron descend on the palace and its armed guards. They create a series of distractions while Moses is gathering the Hebrew people together. Death rains down from the sky on the Pharaoh's people as the Hebrew flee with Moses in the lead. The Syrian ships move quickly and decisively. They vow to give their descendants a chance to escape. As the Pharaoh's armies give chase, the Syrian ships attack the destructive laser lights. With one final effort, the starships part the waters of the sea, which block the exodus. When the Hebrew have passed, the waters of the sea are allowed to cascade back on the pursuers. The story of the parting of the waters is true. The Hebrew escape because the extraterrestrials' assistance. The Syrians leave. Their task accomplished. The lizards are unconcerned with the effort. They are still in control. Moses continues to be contacted by the Syrian commander. He is told about the Lord of the Word and the evil beings in control of the empire. Moses instructs the Hebrew to cast the bronze statue of a serpent, the galactic symbol of knowledge and wisdom. It is called the Nash Hatan. It is the sign to the Syrian king and the Orion queens that the Hebrew remain loyal to the true Lord of the Word, Inyel. The Hebrew patriarch is summoned to the mountaintop, there to receive once again the commands issued by Prince Inyel. Moses is given 2 flat crystals, each with a library of the history of Earth. Moses brings the crystals down and orders his followers to create a gilded box to house the crystals. When placed in the ark, the 2 crystals become active and become a communication device. 2 handlers came too close and touched the ark when it was powering up. They short-circuited the box and destroyed the crystals. The commander cannot afford additional crystals. Moses, feeling responsible, punishes himself, vowing not to proceed into the promised land where the Hebrew arrive. His followers believe God has punished Moses for his killing of the guard. The Exodus has caused the new empire to search out ships from Sirius and Orion. The commander and his squadron are in jeopardy and are forced to leave. Without communication and support, Moses and the Hebrew wander through the desert lands, trying to avoid detection and seeking shelter. A parched, arid land is found where the tribes decide to settle. The lizards believe the Hebrews are not worth pursuit. They leave them to die in the desert. The Hebrew descendants, tired and hungry, carve out a niche where they will hang on. So, it continues, and I can see by the time on here that we're getting close. All right, let's continue. A group of Orion MG warriors who abandoned the queens in power in the Orion stars to join the Syrian forces leave the new empire to form a colony of their own in the mountain regions of what now is known as India. Though once Syrian loyalists, they are now as the Aryans, light-skinned and possessed of a warrior's blood. They move south towards the plateaus. Well-schooled in Syrian secrets, they establish mystery schools of their own, promising not to challenge or undermine the new empire. They agreed to share their knowledge and secrets with the Mason initiates of the Egyptian Empire. In secret, their loyalty remains with the Syrians. The Syrian star beings are known as Asru, the Sirius, those of. The Aryan religion praises the heavenly beings called Ashura. Getting it? The faithful to the ways of the Syrians. They established what has come to be known as the caste system, a way in which power is centered in the high priesthood and the elite. The warrior class wields power second only to the elite. The administrators follow with the beastly undesirables at the bottom of the hierarchy. Obedience is stressed. Faithful execution of one's duties will be rewarded in a future lives. A search for spiritual enlightenment is discouraged. Only service to the gods is the way to heaven. A replica of Syrian ways, Hinduism is born. Though confused and misdirected, the Aryan religions uses the symbols of the combined empires of Sirius and Orion as an emblem of its own. When the Aryan queens and conqueror kings of Sirius joined an alliance, they adopted the sign of a swirling star galaxy as their mark. The four-armed galaxy marks was called the Sestaku, Sastakov swastika. The lizard administrators watched with weary eyes, but did not interfere with the Aryans' efforts to establish themselves in Earth. Additional religions on Earth did not concern the reptiles. Confusion worked to their advantage. Cut off from heavenly support, no Eridu faction was a threat. The lizards were and are in control. We'll stop there because here is the thing, and I think we all can maybe give some credence to this. The writer of this document, this was back in 96, I believe 95, so it's 25 years old. He contends, because what we're going to find out at the very beginning now, there was a tribe. Well, in fact, let's just do that. It'd be kind of a cool way of just showing you how this whole story got started, because the Native American Indians are the key to this. They really are. All right, so let's pull this back up. So this is the Terra papers. We're not alone. The astronomers were wrong. The scientists are wrong. They are here, but we cannot see them because they hide. They hide in plain sight. We are their servants. We are their slaves. We are their property. We are theirs. Now, this is how it started. In the time, the star being would come to trust the six. By using a small crystal to create images, the visitor began to communicate with the young men. Calling him the star elder, the youth sat at the knee of their friend, examining all of the crystalline images with great care, piecing together the incredible story of our solar system and mankind itself. Star Elder's message was simple. Star beings have been here since Earth was a barren rock. They were here when man was created and have been here throughout his evolution. In some cases, their involvement was benevolent, in some cases, not. Man has been guided and he has been misled. The star beings have been our gods and our devils. They have always been here. They are still here now. When pressed to explain his presence on Earth, the star elder stunned the six. There was a war in the skies above. His ship had been downed by enemy forces. It's going on now. In fact, it looks like all shit is about to hit the fan, to put it in layman's terms. There have been armadas being built up from the Orion system. The queens are pissed and they want this planet back. And if it means wiping us out, they're fully prepared to do that because they've done it before. I am called Morning Sky, Robert Morning Sky. My grandfather was one of the 6 young Indian rescuers. When I was young, my grandfather told me the story about his star visitor. He and his friends called him Star Elder, a name given out of respect. But as time passed, his name was revealed to the youth. He was called Bactai. This is the story, and this is his story and mine. In the late 60s, I was enrolled at the university in the religious studies program. Towards the end of my studies, I submitted a paper that briefly summarized the history of man and Earth as told by Shaitai. I titled the paper Terra, A Hidden History of Planet Earth. I was sure I had presented a well researched out and well documented work. It was immediately labeled a work of outrageous, if not blasphemous, distortion of historical records and not of the caliber of a serious student of religion. The Terra papers, the story of Bactai, nearly got me thrown out of school. He said he was frustrated and he approached a UFO organization and they told him he was crazy. For 30 years, I've avoided telling the story. The initial response to my efforts has been discouraging, but I have recently been persuaded to try again. The history of man and earth presented by Bactai is both exciting and frightening. The creation of man and his place in the galaxy is made clear, but in the process, his nobility and his pride will be injured. The abduction phenomenon and the attending gray beings are revealed to have been integral parts of man's history, but are explained against the framework of the purposes of the star beings for mankind. The sources of man's religions and origins of the legendary figures like Zeus, the Minotaur, Osiris, Isis, and a number of other mythological beings are explained and also placed in the framework of the history of the planet. And so too, upon upcoming events can be predicted, not from any psychic abilities or channeling, but from patterns of an ongoing effort to direct planet Earth. Man will soon be surrounded with images of asteroids and falling fiery comets. Black pigs will be seen everywhere, as will angel figures. Dinosaurs will become children's heroes, and violence will be the foundation of their play. New airborne diseases immune to existing treatments will surface. NASA will be rendered weak and impotent, if not terminated. A galactic war of conquest rages over our heads. Earth and man is the prize, excuse me. So, I'm glad for the thumbs up. Thanks, folks. And the other two, I can understand that. Listen, this is heavy stuff. It goes against all things. Humans don't like to be called animals. They don't like to be called beast. And anything that stirs our memories, and you know, when you look into regression therapy, you know, I read the book, we all have, you know, The Journey of the Souls. There's no evidence that we have a soul. We were never created with this. Big Al says, does this mean the aliens can get back my tithing refund with interest? I don't think so, because Al, they are greedy. You remember, the aliens, you have to, let's just be candid. If you're talking about the Aryans, well, those are lizards. And they ain't giving anything back. Those lizard queens, they're billions of years old. They don't know what death is. They have regenerating chambers. It's really weird. But we've seen these in the Sumerian tablets. So it's a fascinating story. I think it because, listen, the way I look at it, folks, this is just me. I don't know. We're in deep trouble out here. And there is something working against us. There is something, it's like watching Joe Biden. Joe Biden has black eyes now. And we're seeing strange stuff. We're seeing certain people that maybe they're not quite the same underneath. Know what I mean? They keep changing the definition of all the words. Yeah, we think that English is the language spoken in space. English is a slang language. It's a gutter language. That's what English is. It's low rent, low class. Just is. Let me prove it to you. We use the word love so interchangeably that we've lost the real meaning. I can say, well, I love my wife, but I love ice cream. I love chocolate. I just love that. Well, what is it? Not well, that word can't be the same for all of those instances. You see how lazy we are? Where the classical Greek, you know, we know exactly what you mean when you say love. Um, yes, how to serve humans. Yeah. So anyway, I found the story. We're going to continue to ride with it. Jane Tripp is going to come on. She sent me her two newest books. So we got that going. And Dune says it's all the spice is the louche. Uh, yes, yes, babe. Paul, I think it's a listen. I just think we have to relearn everything. We can't we can't mock, we can't deny and say, well, that's just foolishness, because I can show you things in supposed holy books that you just get up and go, oh, that's bullshit. That's just total bullshit. Ain't no way that happened. But we'll make exceptions, right? Well, that's because, you're not supposed to do that. But this, oh, well, that's just fiction, Steiger. Anyway, we use tones to speak. Lost in Space, we're going to find out in the book why they gave us the first Adamus, the what they call the monsters. Yeah, that's what they called us. The one who created us. We were monsters, freaky looking things. And the one thing that was so important was being able to give what they call the vocal cords. And there's a reason why. The lizard people apparently can emit a sound that, when amplified through a device, can cut rock and lift rock. Doesn't matter what the weight of it is. And if it's near a ley line, they amplify that energy through the ley lines that they can verbally speak. And it moves blocks like they didn't weigh anything. But if you hear this from so many sources, yeah, isn't it odd, Ken? It's, I got piles of books and, and it's like, yeah, that is and Jenny, it's actually the system that the ancient Hebrews used in their administration called the Year of Jubilee. It's where you wipe the debt out because it's the star system uses debt. That's why we use debt. Where do you think we got it from? It's Martin and Heidi. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Love you too. Babel. Yeah, Paul Joe. Absolutely. The Sumerian cones are said to have moved things too. Yeah, Jenny. Absolutely. You know, it's how they did it. Where is it? Where is it down in Ecuador? Is that right? Is there Peru? Machu Picchu, I think. We know now how they did that. We know how that the ancients did that. Yeah. Anyway, Joe Biden. You know what, kid? I ain't going to argue with that at all. Rick, yeah, it is a spelling language. It's exactly right. That's what English is, and that's why I so appreciate the gifts that we have with Jules. You know, Julianne Payne, she teaches, how these words come about. And the problem with English is that we're speaking spells all the time. And darn it, if it doesn't get us all the time, I'll give you a clue. I hear people say this in their speech, their nomenclature. Well, that just tickles me to death. I'm just dying to know. Really? So what does tickle to death mean? And why do you think that you would be dying to know? If you're dying to know, you're dead. Or someone would say, well, that just kills them. Really? You see, because we have become so trained, programmed, we don't hear ourselves speak. And we speak curses over ourselves all the time. Peace to you, Lost in Space. I've read, I have. So there we go on that one. All right, good. Dislike usury. Uh-huh. I agree. The thing is, okay, I'm seeing this. Spells are from a higher point of the throat to look. Ooh, Jenny, way to go. Yes, 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 yes. Trisha, you're absolutely right. I hear it all the time. I hear people when I go out into the grocery stores and you can hear conversations, and you hear people, I heard one guy say, well, if it wasn't for bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. Really? Why would you say that? Well, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen to me. Why? What's so hard in saying I have favor on my life? Wherever I go, favor meets me, greets me, surrounds me, gives me a hug. Speaking of hugs, favor and Bosto to everybody. Big hug. Waited to the end of the show, but anyway. Okay, folks, have a great day. Beautiful people. Be on with Miss Trina tomorrow. And thank you. Thank you all for being a part of this. I learned from you. I watched the other shows on other people's channels, and we've got a group here. And if the lizards are here, they're aware of us. I have a sense of that. Hugs to you, Susie. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Jules, yeah, I need more favor too. So I just speak over favor over all of us, nothing missing, nothing broken. And remember, favor means you are empowered to prosper. People, I used to say this, that when they looked at me, they envied me because I am to be envied. I am always the top. I'm never the bottom. No matter what comes at me, I am always going to come out on top. I will always be made the head, not the tail. It's just the way it is. All right, folks, I love you. We got a good group. Thank you, keeping the faith. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. Much love to you all. All right, bye.